Hello everyone. So today we are in a very unique place. It's a nature reserve that's called Tel Dan. The word Tel means basically an artificial or archeological mound that has layers of civilizations that were destroyed and rebuilt in history. Sometimes we have tells that we have layers of 30 layers for about 5,000 years. Over here we have some layers from 3,000 years ago, even a bit before, 4,000 years ago, up to the biblical, the Old Testament time, and that's what we are about to see. It's a nature reserve because we have an amazing natural source of water over here. One of the heads of the Jordan River, it's called the Dan, named after the tribe of Dan, that we will see, and we will tell the story of them coming over here because they could not stay where they were on the coastal plain where the Philistines actually took over. So we're going to start and walk around this beautiful natural place. You see a little bit of Israeli tourists over here, and I want you to see first one of the most amazing things here. It's the water. When you come to the land, water is obviously a very important thing. You can see this cat over here, understand it. He came to drink. And over here we have a lot of water. And this is something that also the biblical writer knew about it, because when you go to the Judean hills, it's not like that. You need springs, you need water cisterns. Over here, you can see the amount of water. We're going to go to some other areas to see this beautiful water. Meanwhile, I want to let you get the feeling of walking here. There's a beautiful path. Obviously, it's one of the unique nature reserves in the area. It's one of the biggest springs of the Middle East. Sorry, not the Middle East, of the area. Because we do have in the Middle East some really big springs of Tigris, Euphrates, the Nile. They get some really nice amount of water, not only from rain. One of the main things of walking in the Dan Nature Reserve is basically the sounds of the water. We can read about these sounds in Psalms, in few Psalms, and that's something amazing because the Psalms, the writer is aware of the geography over here. Again, if you're coming from Judea, the source of water is not very easy like here. You need to dig into a well or to live nearby a small spring in the hills, or basically you need to have a water cistern that's collecting the rain water from a mountain, from your houses, from the roofs. And the water, the sounds of the water that you hear right now is something that is very unique. You don't have it a lot in the land, and the writer of Psalms, for example, Psalm 42, is mentioning the Jordan and Mount Hermon. That's the vicinity, and then it says the roar of your waterfalls. The sound of this water is something so godly and so inspiring, so connected to living water, the expression living water. Not every water can be living water. This water obviously can be drink, and this is the main sound that you hear as you walk in the nature reserve of Dan. The Danites that are coming here obviously knew that. They took over an existing city. We'll talk about it and we'll see, and we can read about it in Judges and in Joshua. So we're getting closer to the water. I want you to listen to this roar of your waterfalls. Here we go. Look at this beautiful amount of water. Something that sometimes you're not expecting when you come to Israel. Let me be silent a bit of it. This is a good moment to read the Psalms. My Lord, my soul is downcast within me. Therefore I will remember you from the land of the Jordan, the heights of Hermon, from Mount Mizar. Deep calls to deep in the roar of your waterfalls. All your waves and breakers have swept over me. This is Psalm 42, 6 and 7. Shows you that the writer is very connected to the geography and aware of this roar of waterfalls that we have here. There's a moment that the path going to be more for adventurists, more rocky. This is a great place that even with a wheelchair you can go into nature, which is very, very important. Here we go. Off-road. Beautiful sunny day just for you. In the winter, when it's raining over here, it's a little bit dangerous. These rocks becomes very slippery, but still it's very, very unique. Look at the water coming down. There's few springs around. This water coming out of the ground right in the bushes over here. It's very cold water. Not ice water like in North America, but it's the coldest water you can find in Israel. It's actually from snow melting in the mountains, the water getting into Mount Hermon, which is a big limestone mountain, very cracky, and they get to a layer where they cannot go in deeper, and they comes out here at Dan. You can see some groups of looks like soldiers. Look at what's happening here. We're going to climb a few steps further from the riverbed, which is right over there where the spring starts. Here. And we are moving towards the stairs I showed you. These stairs are climbing up into a ramp. It's a ramp that is actually protecting an ancient city. It's a ramp that on top of it, once upon a time, 3,500 years ago, there was a wall probably, we're not sure. But from here, we'll have to cross the line of the wall of the city from various periods, and we'll be inside the city limits. Inside the city limits, there are a few springs also, which brings the city water and allows the people to still be protected by the wall. We have to make this little step across the wall. Obviously the wall is not existing, only from later periods. And you can see these beautiful colors of green and the sun rays coming in and out. It's not just the camera, it's also here in the reality. It's beautiful. And we're turning to ancient Dan. Basically we're already in ancient Dan, but the more excavated area from the Old Testament time. That's where we're going now. Alright, we're getting to some archaeological findings. Let's talk about it. The name of this place, which was existing even before the Danites are coming, is probably Laish or Leshem. These two names are in the Old Testament, one in Joshua, in Judges 18. We find the story of the journey of the Danites from the coastal plain, which is today, we should say, Tel Aviv area and south, all the way to the north over here, to where we are. They take over the city Laish or Leshem, and they're building here a city that will be their hometown of the Danites, the people of the tribe of Dan. What will happen here later, and we read it in 1 Kings 12, is basically a city that will get a high place. Jeroboam will build this high place probably, because when we come here and we see the excavations, we may find and look at the explanation, so you won't think I'm telling you just lies. You will see here this beautiful the altar over here and the high place at the back, and pay attention to these rooms. It says the priestly chambers. It's very interesting, and I'll explain. So what is happening here, we have some workers, they're building. Let me ask what they're building. מה בונים פה עכשיו? בונים חזרת המזבח? So they're just renovating, and I wanna go in and show you this place, reminding you that after the kingdom of Solomon, the 12 tribes of Israel splitted between the northern kingdom called Israel, and in the south we have the kingdom of Judah that will remain much longer. Each kingdom had kings. The first king of Israel is Jeroboam. And Jeroboam is doing something that we read again in 1 Kings 12. We read about high places that he creates, one of them in Dan, one of them in Bethel, and over there he put a golden sculpture of a bull or and of a calf. And this is something that is very understandable according to what we know from foreign and paganism around. The other gods, for example, the Baal deity looked like a bull or a calf, and this is coming from the influence from the area here. Jeroboam is creating something obviously that is forbidden. He's doing it for money, he's doing it for power, he's doing it because he's trying to compete with Jerusalem. He's trying to get the people of Israel, the kingdom of Israel of the north, coming here and Bethel out of comfortability, giving up the journey to Jerusalem. And what we have here is a high place. This is the altar. They found some stairs over here that going up to the altar, obviously the remains only. This is all dated to the 9th century BC. So it's the time of Jeroboam. Here the remains of the staircase. And this is a four-horned altar that was probably over here. And we see a high place behind. All right, there's like stairs coming, and there's a platform, and behind it basically it's the wall of the site itself. This is a fascinating thing. It was and over there, for example, they found down here a lot of bones of these animals they used to sacrifice. Another thing that they found. They haven't found the golden calf, but they found these chambers that I showed you earlier. These chambers were places for the, why it says priestly? Because in the book of Leviticus we have the division between the parts of the sacrifice that the priests or the Kohens are eating, and part that the rest of Israel are eating. And over here they kept these rules of Leviticus. On the other side they found rooms with the different parts that the rest of Israel used to eat. This is a fascinating site, and I want to climb a little bit, see if they will let us, to the high place. Don't forget that these high places were very common even in the kingdom of Judah. We have some kings that are breaking them. If it's the king of Hezekiah and Josiah, these kings are very protective and trying to to bring the people back to the one and only temple in Jerusalem. This platform over here is from a later period of time, from the Hasmonean time. These beautiful rocks, these are original, these are reconstructed. And climbing up here also gives us the ability to look towards the country called Lebanon. You can see this community up on the hills is already in Lebanon of today, and you know, some years of tension we had here. We're not far from the border, but today it's very quiet. You can see old bunkers that were used here in the wars of 48 and 67, guarding the border of Israel. There's a kibbutz, small community behind me, that kept the border for many years. I was actually born not far away from here. I'll show you where, as we walk towards another finding that they have here from the time of Abraham. Now, the main question is, how do we know this is Dan? How do we know that sites are the sites that we are saying? I want to get into this story a little bit later when we get to another finding of the Tel. Again, we have various periods that were built on top of each other, and this is the high place from the 9th century. Very, very unique, very special. This beautiful oak tree over here was never removed by the people who excavated, because it's a very old oak tree. There's some very old trees over here. We're going to continue and walk towards some other places and sites inside the Tel, what's called the Abraham Gate, gate from the time of Abraham. So this is fascinating. Let's walk there. This is a nice walk. Over here you can see the Golan Heights, and to the north we have Mount Hermon. Up, it's not even the peak, and over there you see the what's called the Nimrod Fortress. It's a Muslim period time fortress on top of this little hill that guard the road to Damascus. We'll try to have a video later of the road to Damascus and Mount Hermon. This kibbutz, the community up on the hill over there, is where I was born. Spent 15 years of my life. Beautiful place called Snil. And you can see again the flat heights of the Golan above. It used to be Syria until 67. Today it's part of Israel. And we walk down. You can see there's another group. I don't want to interrupt them, so I'll show you quickly the gate that is dated to the time of Abraham, about 4,000 years old. It's a gate that was built with mud bricks, and the people who brought this architecture brought it probably from the desert of Syria, which there's much less rain over than here. Here we have rain almost like average like London. So there's a lot of rain, and immediately when they finished they realized it doesn't fit here, so they covered it, so it was never in use almost, this gate. And I want to show you the replica over here. Abraham is getting to Dan. Show you the replica here. This is what we're trying to see, the arch over here. Obviously the gate is missing, and I'll show you the arch and we'll continue. Here you can see the arch. It's a almost 4,000 years old arch that has been stuffed by the people who built it, and the two towers, and everything was covered by mud later when they realized it's gonna fall anyway from the rain. So that's the gate. They call it the gate of Abraham, or the Abrahamic gate, because in Genesis 14 you have Abraham running towards and coming to Dan. Although Dan was not there, but there is something interesting here that we can talk about. Our last stop over here in Dan will be also another gate. Actually, a system of few gates from various centuries, starting from the 9th century all the way to the 8th and 7th, throughout the time of the Kingdom of Israel. The Kingdom of Israel got destroyed. It's 9th and 8th centuries. The 7th century, the 6th, 7th century, 8th century, it got destroyed. So we have 9th century and 8th century gates, and maybe a later gate from the time of after. Maybe the Assyrians built another gate on top. The 9th century gate is probably again the gate that Jeroboam is building, and we have a lot of biblical reality over there. We're about to see it, and we're going to talk about the most important finding of this place. Let me just share with you one more thing as we walk about the name Dan. The name Dan is obviously, we have it in Joshua. We have kind of like an atlas. The book of Joshua is giving us a description. This place is north of this place and east of this place. So if we know one place, we can imagine that we can or start guess other places. Over here, the Arabic name of this Tel is Tel Qadi. Qadi in Arabic is very interesting because Qadi means a judge in Arabic, and in Hebrew, judge or the verb to judge is ladun, from the verb dan, and that immediately rings a bell that we are in a place that is connected to the tribe of Dan. Moreover, we have here something amazing that they found in the high place where I showed you, an inscription from the 2nd century BC already, BC, and it's a dedication inscription to a god that is dwelling in Dan, which means already over 2,000 years ago this place was called Dan. And obviously the high place and the walls and everything fits to the descriptions of the biblical descriptions actually from the Old Testament. So we have a lot of things that are combined together to show us a reality of the past. Now look at this beautiful platform over here. Down there they found something very interesting, an inscription that is broken to few pieces. It was a bigger stela, and that was written by the king of Ammon, and he describes how he killed both kings of Israel and Judah. And the king of Judah is from the house of David, Beit David. It's an inscription that is 200 years later than David, and it's already telling us about a dynasty that's existing, which is something amazing. 200 years later, after David, we already have a recognized dynasty by the enemies of Judah. So it's kind of like one of the most important findings from the Old Testament that has been found in Dan. Look at this high place. There are little gods over here, daddy, mommy, and little kid. These are all obviously paganic high place for maybe people who parked here outside of the gate and were waiting to come in or to trade over here. This was kind of a market. Now when we come into the gate, it's a whole system of building. The gate is protecting the city. It's not just one step and you cross it. You're coming in a house, and over here you see these benches. People were sitting. A lot of things were happening in the gate. It was kind of like the downtown. You have it in you know, like here you can see in Samuel, the king sits at the gate, you know. That's what they choose to put here. And the king arose and sat in the gate, and all the people came before the king. So over here we have a very, very good example of maybe a place where the king used to sit. You see these little steps over here, 4 corners were found, maybe kind of like a decorated seat, of a higher seat for the king. These are foundations for pillars, bases. And from here we basically enter another gate, a later gate over here with 4 rooms that protecting and on. There is another one higher. From here you can see the Tel. We've been inside from a different area, and this is basically where we're going to finish the tour of Dan. But I want to show you one thing which is very important. Here they have the Greek inscription that reminds the god that is dwelling in Dan, and over here the Aramaic inscription of that reminds the house of David. Over here the house of David is mentioned. Today the original one is in the Israel Museum. This is a very important piece of archaeology. Meanwhile, everyone, we'll finish our tour. Hope you enjoyed. See if you can see me right now. So we'll continue in our next site. Stay tuned.